What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Lightning Snow back today with another video. As per y'all's request in the voting poll that I posted a few days ago, I'm continuing my What If Kakashi Joined the Akatsuki Part 2 video. With me, as I did in the last video, I have Daigo Knight. Go ahead and say it, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Back for another video. Thanks for having me.
His rewriting Naruto series is the bomb. Like I've watched every single one, and honestly, they're just like scenarios that like you would never even think of. So definitely go subscribe to him and watch his videos, and you will enjoy it. Trust me. Now, like as we said before, we are continuing our what if Kakashi had joined the Akatsuki? What if, Madara found him when Obito found him, or whenever he found Obito and convinced Kakashi to join the Akatsuki? And where we left off at, if you want to, I'll leave this link in the description below on the What If Kakashi Joined the Akatsuki Part 1. You don't really need to, I guess, but for context, you might want to. And it's just it's a good video for me to watch all the time. But I go ahead and watch it myself sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely worth giving it a watch, and even if you watched it before, just to refresh yourself, I guess.
At the end of that video, we said that the cutoff was if Hiruzen had lived instead of died, which he died in that video, and Minato lived, because the way we kind of ended that video was that Minato would probably save the day, whether by killing Obito and Kakashi or Taro jutsuing them and convincing them to come back to the village. But in this scenario, we're going somewhere else. What if Hiruzen survived and
Yeah, just like in the original, Naruto is still the Jinchuriki and all that.
First thing that me and Daigo had to consider was who would be the sensei of Team 7. And really, the only person that we see visibly being able to the least top priorities would be Jiraiya. And as unlikely as it might seem, because Jiraiya, he's off, researching, so to speak. I think that if Hiruzen made an Anbu Black Ops team and set them out on a mission to recover Jiraiya and to let him know hey, Minato's dead, we don't have Kakashi, and so there really isn't anybody else that could visibly watch over these two. Jiraiya would be the only person I could visibly see looking after them.
Yeah, I would say we thought about maybe Asuma, because Asuma was Hiruzen's son, but really Asuma isn't really very powerful. He's strong though, so weak, but he wasn't strong. I guess Kakashi was to take care of those two, the last Uchiha and the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails and all that. I think Jiraiya would probably be the pick, which would be interesting. Jiraiya being Sasuke's sensei is an interesting thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Chunin exams arc would probably go the same way. So we agree that me and Daigo kind of agree that the Zabuza arc would more or less go the same. Obviously a little bit better because Jiraiya would body Zabuza. But we were going to change anything about how Naruto found his ninja way after meeting Zabuza and Haku. We wanted that to stay the same. The Chunin exams arc would probably be a little bit different. It would be the opposite end of the spectrum, where how now Naruto was kind of neglected by Kakashi to teach Sasuke. The opposite would happen this time, where Jiraiya would probably teach Naruto more than. I don't think Sasuke would take it too personally at the beginning, because Jiraiya would still teach Sasuke some things, but Sasuke would learn the Chidori, which was more or less essential fighting Gaara, even though Sasuke had lost. But
yeah, he wouldn't win the fight in the arena against Gaara, because he won the fight in the arena and then they had to take Gaara away and all that. But if he didn't have the Chidori, he would just lose that fight. And we kind of came up with the fact that he may be able to learn Lee's speed because he still copied that. But it would be probably more difficult, and he wouldn't reach the same level without Kakashi, I think, if he was just training alone.
Yeah, that's on the table kind of thing. We were if we wanted to give Sasuke something, that would probably what he would learn. He would still get the curse mark, so that would still kind of be a problem. I assume it'd still be sealed the same way Kakashi did it. It would just be sealed by Jiraiya. The stuff would go down in the series the same way that did main series. Hiruzen dies. But this time, we put different people at different places in this timeline. So, for example, instead of Itachi and Kisame coming to the village, we're putting Itachi and Kakashi in the village instead of who are infiltrating from the Akatsuki. Realistically, and this is a theory that I'm not entirely sure is 100% true, but there was a known theory that Kishimoto had the idea that if Kakashi was going to be in the Akatsuki, that he'd be partnered with Itachi. So that's what we're kind of going off of. So, they infiltrate the village. The thing is, though, is that Jiraiya still needs to go search for Tsunade. Like, Tsunade being Hokage is still paramount. Me and Daigo kind of came to the conclusion of is that Jiraiya would probably take all the Team 7, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, just to make sure that, he's obviously looking after all his students, to Tatsuku Town to find Tsunade. While all that's going on, Itachi and Kakashi are infiltrating the village. They still meet Asuma and Korodai, and then later on, Guy. And we kind of, because obviously Itachi's still infiltrating the village under the false pretense.
Yeah, I think it's worth to mention here that the Uchiha massacre would remain the same because Obito and Kakashi being the Akatsuki wouldn't really change those events at all. And Kakashi would still show up with Itachi in this scenario, and then the fight would probably go a little bit different because Kakashi in this timeline is more bloodlusted, you could say.
Me and Daigo kind of agree that he'd only really be bloodlusted when Guy showed up, because they're kind of like eternal rivals and whatnot. So seeing Guy again would probably be like, you know what? I could go for a spout. I can go for a bout between me and Guy. I can go for a toe-to-toe. I can see that happening. Me and Daigo kind of came to the conclusion that at the end of that fight, worst case scenario, Korodai would probably be the one that they get killed, just from her being kind of careless, because she did try to put Itachi under a genjutsu. So I could see her kind of making us even more, even that mistake or even worse mistake against either Itachi or Kakashi. Probably more so Kakashi, and actually accidentally getting yourself killed.
And we have to remember too that Kakashi also has the Mangekyo and the Kamui already in this scenario because he learned that when he was 14 with Obito.
Yes. So I could see Koronai kind of slipping up and getting Kamui or something like that. So,
or Chidori / Raikiri or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. One guy kind of get off scot-free because Itachi is hey, whenever Guy showed up in the original series, Guy was hey, I sent word to Amo Black Ops to come and give us reinforcements, to which Itachi was like, hey, we need to pull out of here. We can't fight a full-scale battle. And so they would retreat. The stuff in the mains here would kind of go down the same way. Itachi and Kakashi find Naruto and company in the hotel room. Jiraiya would still be doing Jiraiya stuff. They would receive a knock on the door and it'd be Itachi, Kakashi. And it pretty much goes down the same way. Only this time, we kind of put a bit of a different twist on it, that Itachi doesn't Tsukuyomi Sasuke, but still beats him to crap, to the point where Sasuke's what have I been doing all this year? I need to do something different aside from elite training.
And we kind of came up with that conclusion because Sakura would also be with them, and if we assume Jiraiya also shows up to defend them in the nick of time, Itachi would still start to pummel Sasuke just like in the original, but Sakura wouldn't really stand for that. She wouldn't really watch that happen. She would just run towards Sasuke and try to help him however she could, which wouldn't be very helpful at all, but still that would prompt Jiraiya to use the frog stomach before than when he used in the original, and therefore Itachi wouldn't have time to put him under Tsukuyomi. They would have to do his bucket just like they did in the original, and Itachi would just use a Amaterasu and they would escape.
Sasuke is kind of still, having an existential crisis, so to speak. He's wondering what he should be doing. And so they find Tsunade, and the stuff with Orochimaru and the three-way deadlock still goes down the same.
We have to also mention that Sasuke would still feel that sense, that feeling of inferiority, because he would be even weaker than he was in the original. He would have the Chidori, he would have Kakashi's training, so Naruto would be catching up to him much quicker, and then he would learn the Rasengan, which doesn't help at all. And then we get to this fight, to the Orochimaru fight against the Saiyan. And in this fight, Orochimaru brings Sasuke back with him. He wouldn't get his arms back, but he would get Sasuke. And I think that would happen after Sasuke sees Naruto using the Rasengan. He would be like, dude, this guy got so powerful, and I'm so weak. I have to go with Orochimaru now and get stronger, however I can.
Yeah, I can see Orochimaru sweet talking Sasuke mid battle, hey, I've got all this power. You saw how he was able to, because even Orochimaru was surprised at Naruto.
Yeah,
because a child using a jutsu like that's unheard of. So I think that would prompt Orochimaru to be hey, I can make you stronger than that. And I think that would be really as soon as Orochimaru would mention the word Itachi, or mention the name Itachi, like Sasuke would be like right on his heels and go with Orochimaru. So the Sasuke retrieval arc would really happen. Unfortunately, Sasuke is still drawn for revenge, so he would go with Orochimaru. The stuff in the main series would still happen the same way, like 3 years.
So then it becomes the fifth Hokage and all that.
So the stuff in the main series, like the first part of Shippuden, would probably happen the same way. And this is where Kakashi would probably get involved in because, Deidara and Sasori defeat Gaara and kidnap him. Team Jiraiya, in this case, would be sent to follow. They would encounter the 30% clones of Itachi and Kakashi.
And now Kakashi would be fighting Team Guy, just like Kisame.
Exactly.
Which would be pretty interesting because it's going to be Kakashi versus Guy again in this rivalry that's probably going to be a very recurring theme in the series.
Yeah, for sure. Because, in this timeline, Kakashi has no real emotional ties towards Naruto or Sasuke. Maybe Sasuke to some extent because he's Uchiha, but
Nah, I don't think so, yeah. Probably not.
Yeah. So both teams would more than likely beat, both versions of those two.
Yeah,
Itachi and Kakashi.
for sure, because they were 30% clones and they cannot use their Mangekyo Sharingan in that state. In the original, Itachi said, I can't use Tsukuyomi now, but I can still fight. But I can see Guy just pulling the Asakujaku, like I don't remember the name in English, but the fire jutsu he used against Kisame. And
Yeah.
Jiraiya would probably beat, the Itachi clone too, with Naruto and Chiyo and Sakura and all that.
They would go on to beat both Deidara, not Deidara, but Sasori. They would go on to beat Sasori. Deidara would probably still escape. I don't know if I'm going to give it to Deidara because he was pretty clever in that fight. So he probably did the fake suicide bomb like he did in the main series. And then fast forwarding to we're kind of excluding Hidan. I don't think we're going to have too many people in the comments like getting on to us about excluding Hidan from this timeline.
Yeah, because essentially
He's become more or less irrelevant.
the Akatsuki is formed of 10 members, originally at least. And
Yeah.
Dan was the last one to join, and he is also the weakest one. So if Kakashi was in before all of them arrived, they would have no need for Hidan, and he would be just an extra. He wouldn't be recruited, and therefore Kisame, which wasn't paired up with Itachi, would be paired up with Kakuzu in this timeline.
In this scenario, things would still be similar to the main series. Asuma still dies. Shikamaru and the rest of Team Asuma still
Killed by Kisame, by the way.
Kisame. Yeah. We kind of debated on whether or not they'd probably even take Asuma's body back for Kakuzu to get the money.
It's just revenge. Like, they're going to go for them anyway, so...
Exactly, yeah. So we mentioned earlier that, now that Jiraiya is the sensei of Naruto now, Kakashi wouldn't be there to teach Naruto the Rasen Shuriken training. And it's on the table whether or not Jiraiya would still know enough to teach Naruto the Rasen Shuriken. But at the very least, Naruto would probably learn Sage Mode a lot earlier in this scenario than he would. And because Jiraiya would be around teaching him how to do Sage Mode. Me and Daigo kind of agreed that, the Rasen Shuriken, the timeline would be replaced with Sage Mode instead. However long it took to learn the Rasen Shuriken, it would still probably be the same with the Sage Mode. He wouldn't have the Rasen Shuriken yet, but he'd still have all the amps of Sage Mode whenever they got to the reinforcements, which is what we're going on to next year. Is Jiraiya accompanies the rest of Team Asuma to fight Kisame and Kakuzu.
Yeah, just like Kakashi did. But now they're fighting a much more powerful duo. And we agreed that Jiraiya would probably just go in with Sage Mode activated. He would probably preemptively summon Ma and Pa before the fight starts and just begin with Sage Mode, because if he didn't do that, he'd just be demolished by Kisame and Kakuzu just ganging up on him. And still, this fight's not going to go very well for Konoha, at least in the beginning. Before reinforcements show up, Choji and Ino, they're going to die, man. They're not going to survive.
They weren't really doing anything in the main series. I would get someone who is severely less powerful than Kisame. So, worst case scenario, Ino and Choji are going to fight this. We're agreeing that Ino and Choji. So, because someone had to die in this fight.
Yeah, it's
two of the more powerful Akatsuki members. So realistically, I feel like Ino and Choji are sure candidates to be killed.
Yeah, they would probably die. Like, Kisame wouldn't really be forgiving to them. He would just look at the weakest links and say, oh, I'm gonna destroy you right now.
True, but I can see Kisame and Kakuzu looking at Jiraiya oh, it's the legendary Sani, and oh, I'm ready for this. You know what I'm saying? So they might try to they might be distracted by the aspect of actually killing Jiraiya.
Mhm.
But like Jiraiya with his, incomplete Sage mode and his Toad summons and whatnot, Mom and Pa, me and Daigo agreed that I think they'd be enough to like, with, the Shikamaru and Choji, for however much backup they can provide, they'd be able to hold off until Naruto, Yamato, Sai, and Sakura got there the same way they did in the main series. Like, this fight would go crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically how it would go down.
I think the what we came up with is that it's never going to be a tough fight, and we kind of assume that Choji and Ino are already dead by the time reinforcements show up. And then when that happens, we don't know exactly how the fight was going to play out in detail, but Kakuzu probably dies in this fight still, because Naruto, he's more powerful than Naruto who fought Kakuzu. He didn't have the power from Jutsu, the Rasen Shuriken, but I would argue that having Sage mode is more advantageous than having an incomplete Rasen Shuriken.
I mean, Sage mode took Naruto from being able to, the Naruto that fought Kakuzu to someone who had strength comparable to Tsunade.
And all of the other buffs too, like, it's kind of insane.
Naruto would have availabilities to summons as well, and they'd still have Mon Pa with them. I honestly think that, Mon Pa being there would probably help a lot more than, their Genjutsu would work underwater. Kisame might have trouble, actually finishing off, Jiraiya, Naruto.
Konoha wouldn't lose this fight, but we also agreed that Kisame, after Kakuzu dies, would probably use the massive water bubble. He's probably gonna try and kill some more before he tries to escape, and we kind of agree that Sai is probably gonna die as well in this fight. It's gonna be very costly for Konoha, but then Kisame would eventually escape.
Yeah, Kisame would pull the Deira that he did against in the Gaara retrieval arc, or he kind of just pull the bait and switch and escapes. But Kakuzu, we at least agreed with. I mean, I feel like it's way too much manpower, or at least not one of the Akatsuki members to die. I think one of the Akatsuki members has to die. Both sides are gonna experience a loss. They're gonna lose somebody, and then the Leaf Village is gonna lose a few people.
Yeah, so Kamaru would be very devastated after this arc because his entire team died. So that would be very interesting for Shikamaru's arc/character development, I think.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't even think about that. So I hope that, most people in the comments can agree that Kakuzu at least would fight it, because, again, that's a lot of manpower. You got Jiraiya, whose Sage mode was, he's able to hold off Pain a good bit. And you have Naruto's Sage mode, who was able to hold off even better against Pain. Sakura there, whose strength is obviously compared to Tsunade's, as healing jutsu is almost comparable to Tsunade's. Shikamaru's intellect is either on par with Kakashi's or above, and and Choji and Sai for however much backup they can provide, and then Yamato. So I feel like,
Yamato showed up.
yeah, and I feel like it
would probably be Katsu.
Yeah, and I feel like if Kakuzu's gonna die, it's gonna be Yamato.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, not Yamato, but Kakuzu.
Oh yeah. The thing is with Kisame too, the more people he's fighting, the more chakra he gets. Granted, he would probably not be able to get Naruto and Jiraiya's chakra because it's Sage mode, and we know that you can't really absorb that without consequences. But the other ninjas fighting against him, that's fair game.
True, yeah. Kisame would get away pretty much scot-free, but Kakuzu at least would. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Kisame would kill Kakuzu. If he felt like Kakuzu was already losing his fight, because if Kakuzu was down to one heart, he'd probably be yeah.
You're not getting captured by these guys. It's too much of an instrument for the Akatsuki. Just die.
Exactly. Yeah. So me and Daigo kind of agreed this would be the cutoff for this part, because we didn't want this video being super long, and so we're gonna continue this as a series. I understand that it might be kind of confusing. We didn't have to talk about Kakashi a whole lot, even though that's what the title is consisting of. But you have to remember, there's a lot of variances in a timeline where this can go, so we have to take it one step at a time. Yeah, so that's where we cut off at, and we're going to discuss how things go forward. So if you want to see part 3, again, make sure you subscribe, and click that bell for more notifications to find out what happens in part 3. Thank you, Daigo Knight, for being part of this channel.
Thanks for having me.
So make sure you go and subscribe to this channel, and stay tuned for more updates. And until then, Snow out.